Hey everybody, this is Anton from Intellcre, and welcome to this quick tutorial where we explain how you can use the income section in the new analysis form and how you can use the different features within the section to model the income at your property and for your deal. So at the beginning of each analysis, you have a prompt with boxes where you can upload your financials, your OM for the deal, and similar documents. So if you've done so, then this income section would already have some data populated, but if you haven't, you can still do it in the form. And so this is how the income section looks like without any data. And there's a couple of options that we can use in order to get our the data about our unit mix or about our rents into the system. First one would be typing the data in manually. So I can say I have 9 units, all one bedroom with a certain square footage, with certain current rent, and then also model the pro forma rent. I can always reset this section using the button reset section on the top right. And if we, for some reason, don't have the data on our unit mix and we just want to work with the totals, we can use the type in rent roll totals. And in which case, we just say how many units we have, our total current rental income on a monthly or an annual basis, as well as our pro forma rental income. So let me reset the section once again, and let me show you how to use the upload rent roll feature. So make sure that the document that you're uploading could be a PDF, could be a spreadsheet. Make sure that you have the rent roll data, preferably on the first workbook with the headers, and that the data is there and that the formatting is correct. Otherwise, you can refer to our rent roll upload guidelines to see the details and best practices to make sure that you have the best possible results. Now, in order to upload a rent roll, I'm just simply going to choose a rent roll from my computer. And it should upload fairly quickly. And as we see, the data that's being populated is the data on our unit mix, square footage, current rents, together with our lease expiration dates, if this data is contained in your document. And then, of course, for the pro forma rent, if the document contains data on the market or pro forma rent, the system is going to pull that data as well. Now, there's several ways how we can work with the rent roll here. But before we do, actually, if we for some reason think that the data has not been parsed correctly, please use the thumbs down button here. Our team is going to be notified, and we're going to be able to help you solve any problems as quickly as possible. If you, on the other hand, like the result, you can also let us know. Now, in the header up here, we can use that header to filter our rent roll based on certain characteristics. So let's say I just want to see all my one bedroom units here. So I'm going to click on the filter icon here and filter, show me everything from one bedroom to one bedroom. And as you can see, now I'm only looking at 3 units out of 9 in my rent roll. And we can use similar filters for any other column in the rent roll. Now, let's say I want to bulk edit my values. So let's say I want to make sure that the pro forma rent for all my one bath units is 3,050. So I can go to the same place where I would filter the pro forma rent, and in the edit all filtered values input, I put 3,050. And then I'm going to hit this check mark, and it's going to bulk edit, turn all my pro forma rents to this desired number. So this is how we can use the filtering and the bulk editing features in the rent roll. Once I want to clear my filters, I'm going to clear my filters, and I'm going to see all my 9 units back here. Now, in cases, if we're in a market with heavily rent controlled environment, and for some reason we know that we need to use year 1 rents as well as our pro forma rents, in the 3 dots on the top right, we can use year 1 rents, and it's going to add a new column for us for our year 1 rents, and then a separate column for our pro forma. If we don't want to use it, we simply disable year 1 rents. So in the advanced options in the 3 dots on the top right, we can also group unit rows based on some common characteristics. We can disable unit numbers, and instead of, so I could use the label for the unit, let's say 101, 102, and so on, or I can use basically numbers of units. So if I disable, then this is my unit count. So if I put this to 2, I suddenly have 10 units, right? Because I have captured the information about 2 units in a single row. So this is how I can switch between working with the unit counts or working with the unit numbers, right? So in this case, let's say this is 101, 102, 103, and so on. Okay, so below the rent roll, we have the totals for the units, for the bedrooms, for the square footage. If for some reason the assessor's data that the platform is pulling slightly differs from the data that's captured in the rent roll, such as in this case, we're going to get an orange warning here that the data from the unit mix is not 100% matching the data that we have for the property level data or from the assessor. And we can simply click on the orange text to make sure that those numbers get aligned. Down here, we see the totals for the current rent, monthly and annual, same for the pro forma. And we also see our upside that we also see individually for each unit. If we have a significant upside, the pro forma rent field is going to turn blue. On the other hand, if we have a negative upside, the field is going to turn orange, notifying us that the pro forma rent is lower than the current. Okay, right. Let's go to the rent growth and loss controls that we have right below the rent roll. This is the basic. This is the basic format. So we have assumptions around pro forma rent growth and pro forma vacancy. These numbers are automatically pulled by the platform, but you can also override these numbers in the platform settings in the analysis configuration. If we want to enable advanced options here, we'll see that a whole universe of options opens up, and we can either add more either rental loss or rental increment factors here, maybe another rental loss factor, concessions or something like that. And we can also choose whether we want to work with the percentages for these items, or if we want to work with the absolute values. And if we don't want to use them, of course, we just delete. We also can toggle on year by year modeling, and in this case, we're going to have the year-by-year granularity for these items. Of course, if we change this to 8, and then we want the same number to be for the remainder of our whole term, we can click this arrow to make all the numbers the same. And if we don't want to use the year-by-year, we just toggle this off. We also have the lease-up function here. We use this in case where our property is, let's say, 100% vacant, and we're just trying to model the process of leasing the property up. So if we toggle this on, we'll start with a certain current occupancy, let's say 0%, and then we're gonna set our lease up period. So if in a case of a 10-unit property, we set this lease up period to 5 months, it means that every month we're leasing 2 more of the units until we've leased up the whole property. So this is to model lease up scenarios. We also have the rent stabilization here, which is basically telling us how are we going from our current rents to the pro forma rents. And here we have the timeline for when we're starting the increasing or stabilizing the rent and when we're done stabilizing the rent. So if it's going to take us 3 months and we're starting in month 1, this is the way we would model that. And of course, if you have lease expiration dates in the document that you're uploading, such was the case with this document, we have the lease-based rent stabilization feature here, which is by far the most accurate way you can model how your rents are increasing. And if it's turned on, basically the system is looking at when the leases are expiring and then modeling the rent increase in accord with that schedule. So that's what we're doing right here. In terms of the rent roll and the individual rows here, we can also make a note for each unit. So if we go to the 3 dots here and show advanced options, not only we see the lease expiration separately, but we can also put a note. So let's say this is a legacy unit needs renovation, and we can either make the note public. In that case, it's going to appear in all the property presentations, whether a property website or a brochure, or if we make this note just internal, we're going to see that, but it's not going to appear on any of our reports. So that is our rent roll and our rent growth and loss and other options that we have here. And there are 3 more subsections that we can use. If we have any other revenue streams to the property, any other income, we can use the other income. And there's 2 ways to use this. Either we can do this manually. So let's say laundry, and we set what the laundry income is going to be on a monthly or an annual or a per unit basis. And same for pro forma. And of course, our other income is going to have a certain growth rate as well. Or we can actually upload a document here. T12 would be the most common example. And the system's going to just pull the other income items from that document and populate them here in this section. So that's probably the easiest way to do that. And of course, we see our yearly totals for the other income as well. Now, if we don't want to use the section, we can simply cancel other income. So after we've situated our rent roll and our other income, let's look at the rent comps for this deal. So we have a couple of options here. We can search the map, or we can have the system AI suggest suitable rent comps for us. So this is what we've done here. And of course, in this table shows us the rent comp set that we have. We see the types of units, the rents, the rent per square foot, and below our rent comp set table, we see the averages and how they compare to our subject property. So we see the average rents, we see the rent per square foot, and we also see the percentage that's showing us how our pro forma rents differ from the average rents in the rent comp set. And of course, in our case, we had pro forma rent in the document that we uploaded. So these numbers are basically pulled from that document, and they're not updating automatically. But in case where we have where this information is missing, choosing the rent comp set would automatically trigger the calculation that would populate these numbers, basically do the pro forma rent analysis for us. So here we also see that this system is saying, yeah, from your rent comp set, this is the range. So click to autofill the pro forma rent. In case we want to cherry pick our rent comps using the map view, we can go to search rent comps. And of course, this is going to open up a map. It's going to show us the comps in the area. We can use various map features like the polygon to draw a polygon isolating a certain neighborhood where we want to look for comps. We can also use the filters up here. And we can filter based on a property level data. So show me only properties that have certain unit range or year build or building size. And we can also use the unit level filter. So show me only properties where the units for rent have a certain number of bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and so on. And we can also use the rent filter if we have a ballpark number for what the pro forma rents we're trying to justify or find, and then use that filter as well. In the map view on the right side, we have the results that we can either we can click on the plus to select them and add them to our cell comp set, or minus if we want to deselect them to declutter our view and just look at the most relevant ones and then decide which ones we want to select. The ones that we select are going to be visible in our selected comp tab here. And in case that we want to create a new comp, our own comp, or if we want to import a whole library of comps, we can do so using the functions here. So we can upload a whole library. Of course, so that gets stored in the system, and you have the ability to basically build your own centralized database of comps and data as well. So once we're done with the rent comps, we can save and close. And as I mentioned, here's our rent comp set with the averages and all of that. So the final subsection in the income that we can use, if we're modeling a situation where we're thinking of adding ADUs to our property, we can click on ADUs, and here we basically say we're thinking of adding 2 ADUs to 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom with a certain square footage with a certain pro forma rent, here we'll see that basically on the right sidebar, this deal basically is like a 9-unit deal going to 11-unit deal, right? So we can offset the income from the ADUs, of course, because it's going to take some time to finish the construction and get the tenants in and so on. And we can also factor in the building costs for the ADUs in the expense section. So that's it. I hope that this is helpful in showing you how to use the income section for your own deals. A few closing comments that I forgot to mention. So in case that our document that we're uploading has a 0 current rent for a certain unit, this would show as 0. And it would basically be automatically calculating the vacancy. But in case that we want to basically see what the actual vacancy is in terms of absolute values, we can keep the rent here and just use the label here, switch that to vacant. And in that case, we're going to capture the whole information there. So, and finally, if we're working with the with a mixed use property, we would have enabled, let's say, mixed use multifamily retail. in the property section. And then in the income, we would see we have two components. We have the multifamily component to the income, and then we also have the retail component to the income with its own controls and with its own growth rates, vacancies, and other options. So I hope this was helpful, and do hit that support button here. If you run into any questions, let our team know so we can help you as quickly as possible, and see you in the next tutorial.